Hey everyone, Alec here. Welcome to the shop. Today is a really exciting day because I'm going to get this Denbigh universal milling machine running for the first time. It's been a very long restoration process. I've had this for years and I've only just got to the point where I can see a spin. It's over 100 years old, ready to go back to work, and I don't know when the last time it was run. Decades, I expect. But there's a couple of jobs we need to do first. I've got a driver pulley which has got to go up on the line shaft. I've installed a counter shaft, so that's all ready. But the driver pulley is the wrong bore size for the shaft up there, so I've got to make a bush to get that to fit right. And then we're going to install some belts and hopefully see this thing spin around. So I'm going to start with the bush and the pulley and get that up and go from there. So this is the pulley I'm going to use to drive the mill with. It's the right diameter, 12 inches across. It's wide enough to run a 2-inch belt across a fast loose, which is what that mill needs. It's constructed with a steel rim and spokes. They could be wrought iron, I don't know. And a cast iron hub. They're probably one of the most common style of pulleys around. They were quite common and cheap to produce back in the day, as opposed to fully cast pulleys. So I've got it clamped up as it's going to be when it's up on the line shaft to get a accurate measurement of this bore. The rule says it's 2.5, but I always like to get accurate measurement with telescoping gauge and micrometer, just so I can hit that number perfectly with the OD of the bush, because that's quite important if it's going to be anywhere near concentric. So that's saying 2.5015. I'll do that a couple more times just to make sure. And just for good measure, I'm going to do the other side as well, because I wouldn't be surprised if it's slightly tapered. And that says 2.5 bang on. Okay, so that's nice. I can hit 2.5 bang on with the OD of my bush, and we'll know that that's about right. It's always good to verify that. Let's get over to the lathe. So as you can see, that really wasn't liking that. So I'm going to put a centre in. I thought I might be pushing my luck a little bit. this is the bush we just made over on the Drummond. It was a nice little job for that lathe. We've got to split it though, because these are split pulleys, which make them a lot easier to install on the line shaft. You don't have to take the whole thing down, you just clamp them on, bolt them up, and that's that. So this needs splitting, so it can also be installed on the line shaft. Best way to do that would be to stick it in the milling machine and slit it accurately both sides with a slitting saw. But if you've been paying attention, I can't do that, so I've got to come up with another way. Now there's a million ways to lace a belt. This is how I do it, using hammer-in alligator clips like this. This is an old belt, so there happens to be a joiner on the one end already, which is nice. We'll just stick one on the other side. I find these old cobbler's hammer, pliers, whatever, handy for this sort of thing, because they've got a little nose which you can get in to the teeth there of the clip and just adjust them if you need to. Now this one's come off of something else that was floating around in my box, but it's still good. That needs opening up a bit more. I use a gauge pin to get it the right distance away from the end, and I always like to line up the other side just to make sure they're going to be in alignment. And over the edge of the vise, just tap in each side. Doing the sides first, because sometimes I find they drift to one end if you do them starting from one side. So I'll hammer that home, check everything's still happy, which is not bad. And then you just got to make sure all of these teeth are going to bite in the other side. So they normally, especially on lacing that you've reused, they normally need pointing inwards a little tad. And I'll just push those in by hand. The end one I usually just cock in towards the belt slightly so it's a little angle. Otherwise you end up sometimes little sharp bits sticking outside. Make sure they're all straight. And hammer those home. That one's not going in. Pull out pin. There you have it. There's a special stepped pin to go in there. Lock them together. So they need cutting. Because they work opposite each other, they've got a flat back and then they got steps on the other side. So they need to be back to back in the joint and offset. So it's like a little castellation. There's a step every other gap, and they do go in one way. There is a correct way and a wrong way. Right, let's get it up. I always like to take a file to the edges of the joint. Just take any sharp edges off, and that reduces the chance of it catching on something. Let's see if it'll go on. Next job, get the shaft on, get some power to it, and we'll see how square this really is. I've got it as square as I can possibly measure to the main shaft, but the belt will tell me how good I got it or not, depending on which way it wants to track. So we'll see which way it wants to track and then adjust in the camshaft to suit. We've got to get shifters made to shift this belt over from the fast to the loose and vice versa, but I always like to get it tracking perfectly on both pulleys so that we're not relying on the shifters to keep the belt in place. So far so good. Sorry about that. Bang on, no adjustment needed. That's what I like to see. When the belt's not walking anywhere, it means these shafts are dead square, and I can just take a spanner or something and move it over from the fast to the loose pulley, and it stays there. Like that. That way when we got shifters up here, the belt's not going to be relying on them to stay on track. Happy with that. Now I always just do this bit by feel, get the right tension on the belt. It's normally about an inch less than where it lines up, but this is quite a short belt, so there's not going to be a lot of stretch. So I'm going to do a bit less, obviously accounting for the joiner on the other side as well. I think we're going to go up there. Now they normally need adjusting after a time anyway, as they run in. But nothing worse for the machine than a belt that's too tight. Right then, moment of truth.
Let's see what happens.
Right, so that's that done then. This baby's running for the first time in God knows how long. That's all I've got time for today, I'm afraid, so I'm going to leave it there. Keep an eye out for a future video where we install the belt on the back for the feed, as well as the coolant pump, which is just down there. So that'll be happening very shortly. Oh, and we're going to make some shifters too, so yeah, lots to do yet. And hopefully on that video we'll be actually making some first cuts. So yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Head over to my Instagram, Iron Jonesy, to see more frequent updates on what's going on. And I'm going to leave some footage now of this thing running, so if you want to see that, stick about. Otherwise I'll see you next time. Cheers.